Okay.
It takes about 10 seconds. So.
Okay.
Okay, start
coming.
Yep.
I see it now.
Hello, everybody.
Whoa! I've got an echo.
Hi, guys.
You got an echo. Turn your volume down on your computer.
Yeah, working on it.
AK, don't even have your volume on. You don't need it. You can hear what's going on.
Right.
All right, let's just read the comments. All right, problem solved.
There you go.
That was weird.
All right, guys, we're still working on some issues here, but we're going to wait till everybody starts connecting here. So hopefully we get a full house tonight, answer some questions, just have a little chit-chat between us. But the topic tonight is Apple repair procedures and how they practice. There we go, not procedures. I don't even think they really have procedures, do they?
Yeah, sure they do.
On paper.
So anyway, we're going to wait to see if we get some more people in here. Say hi if you're in the chat. We've got a couple of mods in here. All of us are watching the chat. So if you got any questions, we'll go ahead and answer them as well. And I probably won't be looking at the camera. I'm looking at my computer mostly, so I will look at the camera every now and then when I can.
And if anyone's wondering why I'm looking down a lot, that's because the computer I'm reading everything on is on my lap.
Yeah. Because he prepared so well.
Exactly.
And Jay's not using his lighting because he just doesn't want anybody to see his
face.
Meatball, go away. Meatball's my cat, by the way.
Oh, did we lose Mike? Where did he go?
No,
down. Box.
I'm just hiding down in the corner.
We see that.
I'm not important enough to see up on the big screen.
Well, it only shows, for some reason, FaceTime only shows 4 people at a time. Even though I have a 5K display that doesn't out of.
Yeah, but you can see the layout on your screen. Now you know where they're going to fit 32 people.
It's so cool that you can get the full screen, Greg, because I can't. One person exclamation points out every time another person pops up.
Oh,
you're running this on what Mac?
My mid-2012 MacBook Pro.
There you go.
Why is there double audio? Is anybody hearing double audio?
No.
There's a delay between your stream and my computer.
Oh!
Do you have your sound on, Mike?
No, I haven't turned it off.
No, I think I have it on.
TV audio is on.
No, it's probably audio on here.
See? Greg's computer is doing it. Look,
there we go. All right,
whoever's
audio going away.
Okay.
It only has this
audio's gone.
I never heard any double audio, so I guess we're okay.
Yeah,
no, I have my microphone still on, the Mac is still on, so I just turned it off, so it should.
Oh. Well, here, I can mute this and then listen on to the stream.
All right, we should be going in about 5 minutes. We'll play the intro, and then we'll get down to our chat.
Yeah!
Our not so Apple expert chat.
Exactly.
Oh, we're sort of experts. I mean, Jay, you're a genius.
Is it still echoing, Austin?
Former one.
Yeah, it's still echoing. I heard it, and it's only on yours, Greg. Greg T.
Let me...
No, my cat decides he wants...
Yeah, there is an echo, Greg. I'm listening to it right now.
All right, what about now?
Yeah, there is an echo. Well, that echo,
well, that's great.
and then I'll listen.
Maybe it's my microphone.
All right.
No, you put
that fixed the echo?
Maybe it's my microphone.
That fixing the echo?
Yeah, it's gotta be this. Oh, it's really bad.
You can turn it up there, thank you.
How about now?
All right, let me try some. I'm going to listen to it real quick. Hold on. That's why we do this 10 minutes early.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. Let me try some. I'm going to listen to it real quick. Hold on.
I'm going to disconnect my mic. It's gotta be it, because it's not noisy.
It's still echoing now.
Okay, how's it sound now?
Say something?
Hi.
No, it's still doing it.
Well, that's weird.
Say it.
Babe.
It's a little bit better. Why are we getting echo? That's...
Oh man, it keeps getting worse.
Yeah, now I can hear it on here. Who's got their machine?
All right, just cut out the microphone completely.
Do you have your stream muted on yours, Greg?
I don't know what's going on.
Is your stream muted? Because I hear the stream through the...
All right, let me log back into Face. All right, let's try this again. There we go. That sounds a lot better. All right, Mike, say something. But I'm not hearing anybody else. Hold on. Hold on. I'm fixing it.
You can do it!
Come on, Greg.
Oh. Wow.
Who's
All right, we're fixed.
Damn.
Are we?
Here, I'm going to mute
so.
this and find it.
Wow.
Yeah, we are. Cool.
Oh! Just in time with 8 seconds to spare. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Good. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing on the road here. All right, everybody needs to...
Yep, it's good.
Why is there no video? We had a promo video, but guess what?
Well, guys, if you're looking at a black screen like we are, it's because Greg's trying to get an intro video to run.
We don't have a promo video, so guess what? We're just going to go without it.
Okay, the stream just went black again.
Yep.
No, it should be back again here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we are.
Okay.
All right. So, basically, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but we're going to go ahead and see if this works, actually. We're going to be talking about the Apple repair policies tonight. All right. That actually worked. See, so good.
Oh, look at that. Cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. We're just admiring our own work on the stream for a second.
All right, what we're going to do here is this is going to be a kind of informal chat here. This is what we've been doing like ever since group FaceTime came out. Us four have pretty much been on here, except Mike. This is the first time he's been on for about a week, so, you know. We usually have been chit-chatting, and we've decided, hey, we're talking about a lot of cool stuff that a lot of other people might want to know and what goes on and stuff. So we decided, let's go ahead and live stream this. So we figured out how to live stream FaceTime onto YouTube. So we're all going to take turns if you guys like this or not. We're going to basically swap it back and forth between all our YouTube channels. So my name is Greg Thompson, okay, because we got two Gregs in here.
Yeah.
And I've been with Apple products for about probably 8 or 9 years now. I'm probably one of the newbies in here for Apple products. So, but I have been enjoying some of the retro Apple stuff, and been learning a lot from two of these guys in here, at least Jay and Greg there, the old Apple stuff, and Rocky some stuff too. So. But we'll go ahead and go around the room, so we'll let Jay take it next.
All right. Jay Fry on Facebook. I mostly work on old Apple stuff because, you know, it's just more fun to work on. I write about it on my blog, houseofmoth.com, and I am now also on YouTube, giving that a stab. And, yeah, I talk a lot, and we figured... let's start streaming it. You don't all have to agree.
Okay, Rocky, you're next there.
I'm Rocky Meyer, owner of ICCRP, and so I've been in the Mac world since, the 90s when we got our first 80s, 90s, whatever. But anyway, I work on Macs, new, old, and different. I also work on PCs and other stuff, but... let's see, what else can I say? Oh, and I've got a YouTube channel that I, put on, which is the Evil Mod Pixie channel. There's another one that might be up and coming, but that's basically my little snippet there.
Greg, go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Greg Rudke of, and also known as Rudke Mods. I've got a YouTube channel, a whole lot of other things. I've been in the Mac world a lot less than Apple products. I got my first Apple product. It was my 40 gig 4th gen iPod, and that was in 2004. And that's basically it. And then I got into the Mac part of the community around 2015, and now I've got basically a channel revolving around that. I'm a moderator on Low End Mac. Eventually going to be a writer on there if I ever get around to it and stuff. But basically, I'm really into the retro stuff. If you go over to my channel, you can see that I'm pretty knowledgeable with Mac, and just like the rest of the guys in this group. And I think this is going to be a great talk.
All right, and Mike.
I'm Mike, and I'm by far the oldest one in this group. I've been using Mac since 1985 when we bought a Mac 512. And I've been repairing computers for over 25 years. And I do both Macs and PCs. I'm not just centered on one. As a matter of fact, I'm using this on an Apple iPhone, watching it on a PC at the same time. So don't laugh. I'm also into very, very old electronics, vacuum tubes, relays, stuff like that. So, my first computer I got to play with was an IBM System 370.
Wow.
So,
Damn you old.
All right. Well, that goes with the introductions there. So let's go ahead and get started on our topic of the night. I mean, we might veer off this topic, which is what we normally known to do, especially when we're chatting between ourselves and stuff. We go all over the place and stuff. So,
well, Greg, we do have some questions on the side first. You want to
answer those first? Sure. Go ahead.
Let's see here. They all disappeared.
Yeah, I see Superman. Awesome. I'll be back later, and then I don't see anything else. So if you're in here and you had a question, if you could go ahead and ask it again.
Yeah, that would be great because they're not here now.
Well, it's Rock, scrolling up. They're there.
Well, Rock has one, and it's right there. Does anyone know why my mid-2010 iMac 21.5-inch i3 Intel not have Intel HD graphics like the Intel website says it does?
I can answer that.
Go for it.
Brock, it's because Colin Mister actually explained this to me. It was just never wired for it. The chip itself does have integrated graphics, but the board is not wired to actually use it. So that's why, basically.
Okay, hopefully that answers his question. I think that's the only one up there right now. So
that's I see.
Yeah, that's the only one I see so far. So, all right, we can go ahead and get into our subject here. We've had this discussion before amongst us about Apple's repair policy that they have as far as not letting the user actually repair his own stuff. And I think we all agree that they need to change that policy. I mean, what do you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's just kind of a given.
So it's like owning a car and not being able to get it fixed.
Yep.
It's two-sided for me. I make a living off of repairing boards, but I would prefer if you want to fix your RAM or maybe even upgrade it, you don't need a soldering iron and a heat gun to do it. That would be ideal.
Right.
I totally agree.
And I'm pretty sure Mike can go even further back to.
Well, if you guys really think about it, and this is coming from an old head here, we've actually come full circle in a lot of ways because the original Macintoshes, truthfully, weren't designed to be worked on by anyone but Apple, and they have no upgrade path from Apple either. The original 128 and 512 were basically what you bought, and that's what you got stuck with. Unless you wanted to add something externally. So in a lot of ways, we've actually come full circle. And
well, I mean, but the 512, you could add memory to it if you knew how to open it up with their proprietary screws, which at the time were proprietary, but then became, a standard.
Like Torx now.
Yeah. But, I mean, you could still take components off. I mean, they weren't like micro soldered stuff anymore, and they didn't put solder the memory to it. They didn't solder, all the chips. In fact, the CPU was socketed in the old Macs.
And so
so you can replace those.
Yeah, I see what you mean there, and I think the surface mount devices that you're talking about now, I think, is more of a just advancement in technology versus, I mean, that's the kind of stuff. It was available back then, but it was so expensive.
Well, I agree.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. But with the new MacBook Pros they got coming out with this new T2's chip, which basically there's a new thing coming out where if somebody does a repair on the new MacBook Pro 2018s, you have to have a special Apple software just to reinitialize after repair is made to certain components of the board.
Yeah.
And that right there I kind of disagree with.
See, that's just that's there's something wrong there because you're talking. Basically, what they're doing is they're basically just locking out your computer. So, you have to take it back to Apple. That's like me. Yeah. That's like if I need an engine or a transmission in my Chevy truck, that means I have to take it back to General Motors and have them fix it, or my car will be no good anymore. It's just going to be a piece of junk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but for the prices that we pay for this equipment, I mean, you're probably talking a $2,500 computer.
Yeah.
If I want to go get it serviced at the Apple Center around the corner, should be my prerogative instead of driving. For me, the nearest Apple store is an hour and 40 minutes away.
Same here.
Yeah. And I see what you're saying about coming full circle, but maybe that's Apple's circle, but not the industry circle. Because, electronics in general...
The industry as a whole is very open to people working on their own computers. As a matter of fact, in most PC communities, it's encouraged. Apple is the only company that I'm aware of that's actually doing anything like this.
Yeah. Well, you got companies like the most well-known one, John Deere and all that. They screw their customers too, but I get it if you don't want to supply schematics and all that stuff with your equipment, but don't hide it. Don't make it impossible to get.
Well, don't make it impossible to get parts either. That's the biggest problem right there is parts.
Yeah.
Because I think I heard that, I think it's Samsung, I could be wrong, is now partnering up with iFixit to supply parts and all that stuff for their equipment.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I understand them trying to protect the customers in the regard of, I want to make sure that the equipment that the customer is going to be using to replace is up to snuff with what we would want to provide the proper quality. However, the problem is you can't deny everything, and you've got to have a certain balance to where you can release enough of the data on how to make it properly and be able to give maybe some type of certification of some sort. I can't think of the word, blessing on it and say, okay, this is kind of up to snuff with what we would expect. We'll allow this to be produced under this other brand's name. And that would be okay, but they're not even doing that. They're not giving any door. They're saying no. And if it's dead, if they vintage it out, they say, screw it. We're not going to let you fix it at all.
Yeah, and it's a noble cause, what they're saying, which I think is BS, by the way. Because after you sell me a phone, it's no longer your problem what I do with that phone. If it breaks or if a component fails, yeah, it's your problem. I'll bring it back under warranty.
Well, and if you want to
it's 5 years old, I can do whatever I want with it. It's not your concern if I'm having a good experience or not.
Exactly, and if you want to mod it some way, it's your responsibility, and you take on all the blame for breaking it. Okay, and that's fine with me. But don't tell me I can't open up my own phone, replace a battery or whatever else. That's just wrong.
Yep. No, agreed. And it's going to be an interesting road, and there's a lot of people fighting for this. So, but Apple has a lot of cash to push back. So
exactly, and that's the problem.
Well, yeah, you're right. That is the problem. I think they have too much money, and they're using it in ways that are going. I think in the long run are going to negatively impact the company.
I'd agree with that.
I think it's all about media coverage. Because everybody knows that Apple is the greenest company, and Apple has the happiest workers in China, and trees are growing in the bathrooms because that's what the media covers. But nobody is covering how hard they're pushing back against right to repair and all that stuff.
Is that why they had to put nets up outside their dorm rooms in China?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's giving me that whole spec sheet by every product launch, like, oh, we don't use nuclear waste material in our product. Whoa, whoop! Congratulations. What about all the stuff you don't recycle because it's vintage and obsolete? It vastly outweighs the amount of phones out there that you have.
Well, and that recycling is another point of negativity because, okay, if you're recycling a product, it takes a certain amount of carbon or other chemicals and other things to process it, especially certain plastics and metals and whatnot. So, by the time you go, okay, well, if I could just keep this one device in service and continue to let it run because it's still capable of running what somebody wants it to do versus sending it through the shredder and everything else, the ecological impact is much less if you just let it stay running and in service versus running it through the mill.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think they're getting a little bit better with that, especially with the iOS 12 update, where they actually sped it up on older devices.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And, and some of their questionable practices, like, slowing down the processor on older iPhone battery with, aging batteries. Mm-hmm. I think that was a problem too. But they should have been, like Jay said, they need to be more out in the open and not holding that stuff back from consumers. Cause
I agree.
That's where it gets bad.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're talking about the battery stuff. I've got a 6S right here. The battery was fine until a few months ago, and it started glitching out. Now, if it had been before the transparency thing that they were doing, where they were just slowing it down without telling us, mm-hmm. That would have been, I would have been pretty ticked, But, this thing, it would just randomly shut off. And I knew about the transparency thing by then, and I'd disable the slowdowns, and it would make it shut off even quicker. So I got the battery replaced. It's all good now. But, it's... They could have addressed that issue alone better than they did.
I totally agree. Agree.
But here's the flip side of the coin that is one of Apple's main arguments. Okay, we make available the parts. We make available the schematics. What about shady repair service centers or people that claim they can repair stuff? And if there's anyone... Yeah, I don't even know if I should mention it. There was a recent example of a guy that runs a repair shop that obviously shouldn't. If you bring your phone or your Mac to a shop like that, they completely destroy your device or even sell it without you knowing. Is that going to give Apple a bad rap? Is it going to blow back on Apple?
Shouldn't.
Hey guys, we've got a question.
Yeah, we do have a question. Why would an iPod, after being turned off and being charged, it still will not turn on? It only shows the Apple logo.
Austin, which iPod is this, first off? Is it your blue iPod Touch?
I'm going to say if it's an iPod Touch, it's probably just borked. Because I have one that does the same exact thing. I have an iPod Touch 5 that does the same exact thing. And
Austin, the battery might be bad.
It might be
dead. It's charged. It won't give enough juice for it to turn on.
Even with it plugged in. Sometimes even with it plugged in, it won't have enough to...
Yep.
Because the battery actually has to be charged up at least a little bit for it to even turn on with it plugged in with power.
Yeah, I'll message your mother later and we'll talk about it.
You're going to call his mom. Uh-oh, he's in trouble now.
God.
So, guys, any other questions here? I mean, we're going to continue talking about the Apple repair policies, but if you guys got any questions, go ahead and feel free to type them in there, and when we see them, we will try to get to them.
Yep.
Yeah, bring your friends along to the stream. Let's get this watch count up. Woo!
We should have probably shared this more on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, it's not like a lot of planning went into this.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, Jay, I'm going to respond to what you were talking about shady research service centers. Okay.
Uh-oh.
You guys all know what I do for a living, right?
No.
Auto mechanic.
I'm a mechanic. Me and my stepdad own a garage. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've done it for 20 years. I usually enjoy it. We're actually having the same problem in my industry that everyone else is having with Apple right now, where car companies don't want to release information on diagnostics on their vehicles, therefore causing people to have to take their cars to the dealership to get certain work done. So we're having the same problem, but in terms of like shady people doing repairs on computers, well, you have the same problem with people doing repairs on cars as well. I mean, the only difference is if somebody screws up your hard drive on your computer, it's not going to kill you or 500 people as you're going 80 miles an hour down the highway. Whereas if somebody screws up your brakes, you know.
That's a valid point.
Yep.
So I mean, I can see Apple's point and say, well, we want to protect the consumer from people who are shady and yada yada yada, and I see that, but Apple's not using that much proprietary technology in their computers anymore.
No,
like they used to. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, the only thing that was basically, I mean, the components were off the shelf, but the designs and everything were strictly, you know, the Swim chip and stuff inside the original Macs was like one of their closely guarded secrets, you know. Now everything that they're doing now is just basically off the shelf parts. Anybody could build one.
Well, not anymore. Now you get things like the T2 chip and custom firmware and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, now, but I mean,
well, I think some of Apple's excuses are like when people are using, for instance, knockoff Chinese lightning cables, and it's wired wrong, and the person gets electrocuted to death, or they're using some kind of cheap battery, knockoff battery that ends up blowing up and catching the house on fire.
That I can understand.
That makes sense. You know, especially lithium ion batteries. Things are dangerous.
But it goes back to my point that I said is Apple should be actually supplying repair shops with these parts.
Yeah.
Genuine Apple parts. I mean, and they won't do it unless, guess what? You're an Apple certified provider.
Or
those guys can't even do the level of work that I hate to mention them, but Rossmann type people do, you know?
Yeah. And if Apple
and Jay.
but they won't supply, it's not just like even the Apple certified service providers, they are not even supplying them parts for anything that goes to what they consider vintage or obsolete. They don't even supply them parts, so they have, if they're not vetting any other companies who want to manufacture these parts, then there's nothing in the stream.
Yeah.
And they've been blocking refurbished parts now. If they've been refurbished, let's say in Europe or...
Because they're counterfeits.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tricky. Well, I think we have a question.
Yes, we do, actually. Anybody want to take a shot at that about the iPhone 6? I haven't had an iPhone 6 in a while, so...
Got one.
Question, why 6 shows up in iTunes but doesn't show anything on screen?
Probably a screen.
Neo, is it, I hate to say it, but is it a jailbroken iPhone or is it just straight up iOS 12 or whatever on it?
I've had something similar to this. When my first 6S got broken, it went into recovery mode, which only allows you to pull stuff off of it. But
he replaced the screen.
Yeah.
It could be
did they replace, or did you have it professionally replaced, or did you replace it yourself?
Okay, yeah. I don't know about the 6, but there was the iPhone 8. If you had the screen replaced, there was a software, one of the software updates disabled the screen on them.
They had that error on the 6s, but that was back with like OS 9, I think. It gave that one special magic error and would
error 53 or something?
Yeah, but it
but the
screen that I know of.
I think it's all the iPhones with the touch sensor would do it. I mean, and I don't know if he said 11.2.6 was the last one. That might be the one that does it.
But, you know, there's about like 2 or 3 connectors in there, and on that little tiny board up by the very I have a 6S, and it'd be a decent example.
By the hinge area.
You know, right here, it's got those itty-bitty tiny little connectors right in here, and it's a pain in the butt because they are just, there's hardly any room to work to get them down, and then you have to screw the retainer down on top of it, and if you don't get them just right seated, and they are a bitch to get in there, then...
Well, he says that he replaced...
Oh, there you go. Mike's showing a good picture.
Now this is a 5S. This isn't a 6S. But I mean, you can. I mean, these connectors here, they are a royal pain.
Yes, they are.
To connect down if you're not, because you have to push it. You have to put it down, then connect all these connectors, And then you have to get the touch sensor, which is down here on the bottom, in at the same time.
But the 6 doesn't have it down there.
Well, and that might be the reason, Neo, that you see, or iTunes sees it, but you can't see anything on the screen because the screen's probably not connected fully.
I have a feeling, Neo, that's your problem.
I would probably have to take it
back apart, check all the connections, and before you put it back together, just make sure, of course, there's nothing that might blow up or something.
Well, and
not connected properly. Turn it on and see if the screen comes on.
Well, and like the screen, like on these, there's nothing connected down here at the bottom. Nothing absolutely. It's all up here. So you can still have it arced up, plug in a power lightning cable, let it boot, and be able to see if your screen comes up.
I always do that every time I open up an iPhone. I always make sure the screen works before I clip it back together.
Yep.
Well, that was a good question, though.
It was a great question.
Yep.
You really have to double check with the newer ones after starting with the 6 because they're all glued together. So they're a lot harder to get apart.
They're harder to get apart, but as long as you have a strong enough suction cup, you can usually pop them apart.
Yeah, and see, I remember the days when I had a 3G. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was
going to say, I remember the days when I had a 3G and the screen and the touch panel were separate.
Yeah.
You know, and you could actually replace just the touch panel and not the LCD.
I did a lot of those repairs back in the day.
Yep.
But it used to bug me, too, because I had dust underneath my screen sometimes. Even when I didn't replace the screen, dust would still get underneath it.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't miss is dust under the screen that you can't.
I know, because to me, I'm like OCD with that. I get it. My eye goes like straight to the piece of dust, you know.
Guys, he said, my brother was using it one day when it blacked out. Yeah, it could be the connector. It could have just came loose by just shaking it.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't in all the way, probably, and like Greg just said, it probably just worked its way loose.
I've had my 5S did that once with the battery.
Or like Jace just said, maybe he dropped it.
Into a bucket of water.
Hey, I dropped my iPhone 6 into a toilet. It still works.
Oh, I don't know if I'd want to use it after doing
that. I had just cleaned it. I wasn't using it.
At least he knows no one will steal it.
Actually, I was thinking about giving it to my niece.
Oh.
That's cruel. I don't think she'll want it after hearing this stream.
Well, she's 8, so she doesn't really have much room to complain. It'll be her first real phone.
Yeah. All right. Any other back to our topic there? I mean, since we don't have any questions yet, if we get any other questions, we'll go to that. But one of the things I think, like I said, Apple needs to do, and they need to do this to change their image, is to let more repair shops fix their stuff. I mean, for one thing, when I see videos on YouTube where people bring in a MacBook, okay, and it's got a simple little repair that costs about like $10 to fix it, yet they want to charge you $1,500 to $2,000 because, we got to replace this. Because, to be honest with you, the Genius Bars, there's no repair shop in the back there. All they're going to do is swap a whole part out and put new stuff in, and they're going to call it a day. And then the whole idea of them losing your data, I've seen that happen before, and you shouldn't happen, especially on older Macs. Now, the newer iMacs or the newer MacBook Pros, that's a problem because guess what? They soldered down all the SSDs. They're soldered to the logic board.
Well, up until recently, the MacBook Pro even had a port that Genius could hook into to save data if they had to. And they removed that.
Yep.
And when it comes to the loss of data, it really takes a lot for me to feel bad for someone because if you don't back up your stuff, then it's...
You don't use Time Machine. Time Machine's so easy to use.
Yeah.
Well, now I've got a slightly different perspective on the data. And I just say that because back in around the 06, 07, and 08 era, there was a lot of issues with that 10.5, 10.4. And I mean, like everybody knows, that's worked on them, you've got to sit there and reload the machine and restore the data. So we would get a lot of machines in that really didn't have a problem. And any machine that we got in, the first thing I did, if it would boot at all, if I could get it into target disk mode, FireWire, copy it to to another Mac that I had there just strictly for that purpose. I would image the entire drive, make sure it's a solid image, reload the machine, do all my troubleshooting, checking, make sure everything's good, and reload it again and restore the data from the customer. And it was back to new. And I never lost customer data unless the drive was completely borked and I couldn't get the data off.
Yeah.
Windows, I could understand losing data because those things are an absolute unholy nightmare to get data off of.
Oh, yeah. You lose your data as soon as you buy a PC.
Well, I mean, a Windows machine doesn't have a good backup option even built in to the operating system like OS X does.
God, no.
A good restore option is the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what it is Windows XP, I think, started giving you the system restore, which actually was one of the greatest things they ever did because...
They actually came out with Millennium Edition.
Did it? I couldn't remember, because I know Windows 2000 didn't have it, but Windows 2000 is like a whole separate system from everything else.
Yeah, it was on Millennium. It didn't work worth a damn.
No, but that's not actually a true backup, though. That's the problem.
But the backup options on a PC are horrible, and the thing that really, really has irked me over all these years is if I have a Mac, okay, and this goes back all the way back to the original Macs. If I have a Mac and it's got stuff on the hard drive, I copy that stuff to whatever, a CD or floppies or whatever, and then all I have to do is copy all that stuff back to a hard drive, and it's there. It works. You can't do that on a PC, or not on a Windows PC. You can't just copy that software off of a hard drive, put it back on another computer, and it just won't work.
Right.
Windows. The problem with the Windows PC is their damn registry, because they can't figure out how to make everything work right, so they just keep cobbling crap together with lines of obsolete code that should have been expired in 1970.
Well, the Mac ain't that easy anymore either. I mean, in OS 9 and early versions of OS 10, it was easy. But now, I used to migrate data for people, and especially email, was easy. You grab the mail folder, you grab the mail preferences, you are done. You got your entire inbox structure with the folders, the account setup.
Not Windows.
Now it's hiding in different spots all over the system. I would not currently be able to back up someone's email, restore it to another system, and have it working, because you have your accounts preferences that ties it to something else, and it's a nightmare. So,
all right,
we'll get another question here.
Yeah.
Another iPhone question. My dad has this iPhone 5S battery replaced by a cheap battery, and it's dead even with a different battery. Dead board?
Yeah,
probably. It could be, because the 5S is probably one of the biggest pains in the ass to replace batteries in. I know that from experience. They're very testy when you replace the battery, and the connector can get a little messed up, and then the battery stops working properly, and sometimes it just doesn't work ever again. There's also this one screw up towards the display connector that can be tightened. If you put the wrong screw into it, a longer one instead of the one that's supposed to be in it, you can short out some connections behind the screw hole, and it will short the whole board out. So the 5S is one of the biggest pains, and there's a good possibility the board is dead.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yep. Plus, I've seen those 5Ss. A friend of mine had a iPhone 5, not the 5S, but his battery just went completely dead, like no warning. So those 5s had battery issue. I think they actually had a battery recall on those 5 or 5S. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I think it was the 5. The 5S fixed a lot of the problem that the original 5 and the 5C had. So, but it's funny you asked that question, because the 5S I was just showing the screen on has the same exact problem. The battery went bad, and it just wouldn't power on anymore. I got a replacement battery for it, and just It's just
my 5S. I placed the battery in it, and a few months later, it just started shutting off randomly. I never could get it to work right ever again.
yeah.
It's just the boards just go in them after you open them.
And
especially when you say cheap battery, that's
and by this day and age, truthfully, there's so many better alternatives to a 5S today. Anyway, I mean, you can get a regular iPhone 6 for pennies.
I really don't like the form factor. Go with the SE. It runs amazing on iOS 12.
Oh yeah,
the SE is a great phone.
Yeah, but the SE is just the 6S with, a different...
No, it's a 5S.
Oh, the SE is a 5S? It's a little one?
I thought it was a 6. I thought it was a 6.
Well, the SE is a 6S inside, but it's the size of a 5S.
Yeah. I thought it was.
Which is why it's so awesome.
My fingers are fat. That's why I have a bigger phone.
My hands are not small, but I still prefer the SE.
I went and got the 8S when it first came out last year, and I love this phone. And I didn't get the XS because I didn't like, for one, the Face ID. I like the Touch ID more than I like the facial ID stuff. Plus, the fact is, it's the first iteration of Face ID, and I was going to wait till they work out all the bugs first. Because remember, the 5S was the first one to come out with Touch ID.
Yep.
And it was slow and painful because I had 5S.
That is the reason why I still don't use Touch ID.
Yep.
Actually, Touch ID didn't actually come into its own until the 6S came out.
Yep.
And then
I agree with you.
My 6S, my 6, when the Touch ID still worked, was horrible. I'd have to sit there and fiddle with it. My 6S, which is the phone I use now, I mean, I don't even want to unlock it half the time in the damn thing.
Jay, you might be able to answer this question. Josh asks, is it worth upgrading to an iPhone X from an iPhone 6S?
Depends on the usage. I like to upgrade my phone simply to get a better camera. I would say a 6S, and Greg might be able to back me up on this, should run really well on iOS 12.
It does.
So you might be able to make it
really up to you if you want the newest, latest, and greatest. Otherwise, if it's working for you, save some money and keep it.
Yep, I use a 6S Plus, and I love it. I don't want to upgrade.
Yeah, although it gets a little toasty with group FaceTime.
Yeah. Well, price-wise, you're probably better off if you want to stick with it, because right now I think the price of the XS is probably $1,200, I think, or $1,300, somewhere around there, at the base model.
Well, there is a time consideration. If you use your phone for productivity, the X is going to get it done faster. So, is the investment worth the amount of time you might save? But only you can answer that, Josh.
Yep. And
basically, what you can afford and what you want to buy for that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Austin, with autocorrect, sometimes it picks up different words.
Yeah, we won't talk about that with Greg.
Autocorrect is Austin. It's a common thing.
We'll just say Mike Papa there.
Yeah, that's how mice get found.
Yeah, no kidding.
Battery lifespan, Touch ID reliability. Okay, the iPhone X does not have any Touch ID at all, Josh. So you're going to, if you want Touch ID, the last phone that does Touch ID is the 8 or 8 Plus. That is the last one that does Touch ID. Anything above that is going to have Face ID, and they don't have Touch ID on it.
And I'm not too I'm using the iPhone XS, and I'm not too crazy about Face ID. It has some glitches. It's not very fast, and I can only imagine the X is going to be even slower and worse. So.
Well, didn't you shave once and it just stopped working?
Yeah, dude, I didn't have anything for 3 days. I had to grow my beard back to get back in my phone. I mean, I could use the code, but the Face ID just refused.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I have the 8 Plus, and the Touch ID works perfect on it. I don't have a problem with the Touch ID. The only thing I guess I don't like much is that it's not a physical button anymore. It's one of those that has the what do you call it? The
Force touch.
The touch sense. What did they call it?
The weird click.
Yeah, it feels like a click, but it's not really
Haptic
a click.
feedback. That's what they call it.
Yeah, haptic. That's it. Yeah.
Give me a real button. That's why I still have a 6S.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Charles.
That's one of the many reasons why I still have a 6S.
Well,
I like the headphone jack.
I don't even use my headphone jack.
I
Very
still do.
rarely.
Oh, I use my all the time.
But I had a 6 and I got the 6S Plus really cheap, and it's like, why do I need anything more? I mean, this phone does everything I want, and it actually does it a lot better than my 6 ever did. You know, I mean, this thing is so fast. It's like, to me, it's fast. Truthfully, I don't think my iPad Pro is any faster than my 6S.
My whole channel is filmed with this phone. I mean, it's a great camera.
That's right, bud.
All right, we got another question here. Is there any downside for using a fake MagSafe?
I can answer that one. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have 2, 4, 6. I have about 20 Macs in various state of repair behind the camera. You can't see it. At least 5 of those are there because of knockoff chargers.
Yeah, they'll just, they don't regulate power properly sometimes. They'll send a jolt straight through the board, fry the connector, or even fry the board.
Yep.
Yeah, they can do a lot of damage.
And make sure you use the correct wattage for one, because always either go at the same wattage that's recommended or higher. Never go lower.
That's why I always use an 85 watt on no matter what.
Oh, yeah, 85.
Yeah, I mean, you can go higher. A lot of people think that it might fry the MacBook, but your MacBook's only going to take as much charge as it can handle. Wattage is basically the amount of voltage coming, the flow coming over it, not how much is coming in.
Well, that's why it's important to use an original, because the chipset in the MagSafe charger communicates and regulates how much juice
exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, we got a big, long question from Charles here. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay, we'll answer Josh here first. Which models have wireless charging? The iPhone 8, 8 Plus,
and all the
X and XS models and XR, I guess, all have wireless charging. Anything with the 8 and up have wireless charging.
You can also get aftermarket cases that can do it on older ones. And there's also this weird Chinese one that I wouldn't really recommend getting. Just swap the case out and wire it in. It's
that's reliable already.
Go look up a guy on YouTube.
Right there.
It's called Strange Parts, and he actually has done that, and he's actually selling some of those wireless where you can convert your old phone to like an iPhone 7 to have wireless charging.
Yep.
Now for the big question.
Copy and pasting in progress. Okay, let's see. All right, have a Facebook chat with Greg H. this week. Okay, so this is up to you there, Greg.
Who is that?
I am a pro audio producer. I bought a gorgeous MacBook 1,1 last year, flashed it to 2,1, running El Capitan. My, let's see, 2-time quad-core Intel Xeon 266, 8 cores, 8 times 4 gigabyte memory, DDR2, FBDIMM, AMD Radeon 7950. I just love that. Whoa, I just scrolled up on me automatically. I just love that huge block of aluminum. I didn't read enough before buying the 500 gigabyte NVMe Samsung Blade and PCIe adapter. I thought I'd be able to.
I read everything.
Okay. I was reading it for our
the reader. Okay, basically he's asking, because I told him that you can't boot from an M.2 on a 2,1. That's because the 32-bit EFI. And he wants to know if he can keep the chassis and fit another board in. You can fit a 3,1 board into it, which should, in theory, boot a M.2. But I actually have a video on it. It's going to cost so much, it's just cheaper to buy another Mac Pro than it is to build this system up, because it's not just as easy as replacing the board. You've got to replace basically the whole inside to do it, and it's just not cost effective. And then he continues on with, should he get rid of the whole box and build a killer Hackintosh? Well, depending on price and cost effectiveness and stuff, yes.
And how happy you are with an operating system that's about as reliable as a Fiat.
What are we talking about? OS X or Windows?
I think he's talking Windows.
Yeah, in this case.
Well, but he was saying Hackintosh, which would mean it's going to run OS 10
on a PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from what I read, it's such a headache. Constant upkeep and, you know.
Well, it's not only the problem with
hardware.
Is basically getting drivers for the different hardware pieces to actually play nice with OS X.
Yep.
That's the biggest headache.
Mac OS.
Yeah.
Mac OS.
Okay, yeah, it's OS now. They got rid of the X. Okay, never mind.
XS, Mac OS XS is next.
Hey, I'm used to it saying OS X.
Yeah.
Or OS 10 as it's supposed to be called, I guess.
I still call messages iMessage. I mean, some things are just there to stay.
Well, pretty soon they're probably going to get rid of the I off of iPhone and go to something else, maybe Apple phone.
Yeah, just phone. Like we got the market by the ball so bad, we just call it phone. And everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, but the reason why they always add prefixes to it is so they can copyright it.
Well, they added the I basically, and actually I thought someone had the iPhone.
Yeah, Cisco I think did. Or no, that was iOS.
They had to pay somebody I know to get that.
Yeah, it was some company I think Brazil.
Yeah.
But I was started because it stood for Internet for the iMac.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now it means a lot of different things.
Well, that's like when Steve Jobs came back, they said ICEO, interim CEO. So then people thought it meant, oh, this means interim, but no, it's supposed to be Internet.
Yeah.
That's what the iMac was originally.
Yeah.
Then they added I to iPod because it went along with the lines in the naming scheme.
Forgot to mention, I think one of you in LEM helped answer my question with my MacBook Air. I know that wasn't Jay. I got the keyboard.
I mean,
Jay's not a huge fan of MacBook Airs.
you are not.
But yeah, that's good. Glad you got it fixed.
Yeah. There was a few Air questions out there. I don't know which one of us it was. Oh, shit.
Nice.
Stream.
Missed that.
Greg missed it, huh? I told Jay every time he does that, I'm going to put that up.
All right, I'll try not to.
Yeah, happy I could help if it was me. I can't
No,
say
it wasn't you.
it wasn't, so.
So, how many times have we gone off topic? I mean, questions don't count, but
No,
that's been pretty good.
times I think, but we kind of veered back to the topic. I mean, it kind of relates to the topic. A lot of stuff we're talking about, if you think about it. You know, the for instance, let's talk about the new MacBook Pros because I actually have one of those sitting right here.
Oh, this
It's
is
got a skin on it, of course.
Yeah,
But guess what? Let's talk about that keyboard.
Nope.
Butterfly on.
No.
Nope. I will keep talking for the next 6 hours, and it's not going to be pretty. So,
Or we could talk about, let's see, well, we already tried to a little bit. You skirted around it about the bad technicians out there that have certain people that shouldn't be working on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's, well, as long as I don't mention any names, we should be fine, right?
I think so.
All right, so there's 10 people watching this.
No, we did not, Superman. Can you ask it again? Hold on. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait for the question to come in.
Superman, can you re-ask that question because it disappeared and I just remembered the basics of it. Something about your 660 and 2600.
So while we're waiting for him to type that, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. There's a guy on the Facebook group Low End Mac, as I mentioned earlier. He had some issues with the iMac, and one of his technicians zapped himself on the power supply. He got fired. Then the few spare parts that he had laying around were unable to fix the computer. At some point, his wife stepped in to try and help out, and then smoke came out of the iMac, and it just got from bad to worse. Now, those are the people that your product is going to end up with. If Apple completely locks it down, you don't have a choice but to find someone in a mall kiosk or,
Well, especially if they want to charge you $1,700 for a repair, and and you're going to go to this guy. He's going to say, "Oh, I'll fix it for $100."
Yeah, because it looks professional. He has his little storefront, and his name is on the wall, and they're all wearing a T-shirt with a logo on it, and they should not they should not be able to touch a screwdriver. But people don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, they don't know to go look at stuff because Jay and I looked at his website, and I was like shocked.
Yeah. It's it was bizarre. It's like, wow, this has got to be trolling. There's no way this is real, but it was bad. And meanwhile, there's someone like me. I work from home. I don't have a storefront. I don't have a retail space with shirts and pretty logos and stuff. Meanwhile, I can fix that Mac much better than the guy I just mentioned does, but nobody knows how to find me. So how do you know where to go? Apple won't touch it.
Yeah, Jay, you fixed the Mac I'm streaming on right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I've said,
how are those Q-tips holding up?
They seem to be working.
I think that's a good indicator too of maybe a better shop is ones like I have my own shop. I run it out of my house. I have people bring equipment in, and if there's something that goes outside of my wheelhouse of what I do, then I send it to say Jay or or someone else that I know that's in that realm, and I send it to them and have them take care of the problem so that it gets done right instead of screwed up. Because if I screw it up, I'm going to pay to fix it, and I'm going to pay.
If I want to fix an HDMI port on a PlayStation, I send it to Rocky.
That's going to your head forever, Rocky.
All right, we got Superman's question up here. He says he has a 2008 MacBook or Mac Pro with the 2600 XT with Mojave installed. I now have a donated GTX 660 that I want to install. So with the patch that was used for Mojave for 2600 XT.
Okay, yeah. What he's asking is he patched it to run without metal support. And now he's putting a metal supported card in. And this literally just happened to me about an hour ago, so I can really answer this now. When it's patched, Colin has not figured out a way to undo the patch yet. So what would happen is if you put your 660 in, you will not have any graphics acceleration at all. But what you can do is basically just reinstall Mojave and restore your backup, and you should be good. And metal should automatically work. All the drivers should work because it's a Kepler card. And you can also keep the 2600 if you want in the system. It won't have acceleration, but it will still work as for boot menus and stuff. And having the 660, you'll have the metal acceleration and stuff, and it should work.
Well, here's the thing, though, Greg. Now, it's a 2008 MacBook or Mac Pro. Isn't that a non-supported computer? So how is he going to install it without the patcher?
Yeah, you still need the patcher.
But it will it'll use the graphic acceleration then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a separate patch.
All right, I just want to make sure that I understood it.
That I would worry about with that patch is something I've found in some testing of my own, with certain patches like that, depending on what it's patching in macOS, macOS will actually carry it during the restore. It'll restore some of those kexts and things like that that have been modified, and it'll restore the entire modified, and it may actually restore the patch back to the OS. So that's the only thing I would worry about in a restore.
Yeah. So in that case, you'd basically just delete those kexts before you restore it.
I don't know how that patch works. I haven't looked at it. So
it patches certain files in the video drivers that come from High Sierra. So basically, you can just delete those, run the backup again, and then restore the system. Also, Austin, with the disc on the back of an iPod, you have a 5th generation iPod Touch, and those it's a little button that will spring out. You can put like a loop on it, so you can hold it and carry it, and that's what that little disc is.
And Charles, I'll answer your question real quick. Yeah, what we've been talking about is Mojave on a Mac Pro 2008. Yes, you can, but it has to have Collins Patcher in order for it to actually work.
Yeah, DOSDude1, DOSDude1.com. He has a whole lot of patchers over there that can help you out.
I actually run his patch to run Sierra on my 2008 3.1.
And I run his patch to run it on my High Sierra on my 2008 3.1.
I run his patch on a 17-inch 2009 MacBook Pro to run Mojave. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of patches and unsupported things, I know Rocky might have an opinion on this. I'm not sure where Mike stands, but what are you guys' thoughts on the whole NVIDIA and Apple not letting them through right now?
Well, from what I've been hearing, NVIDIA has finished all their drivers, but Apple needs to pre-approve all the drivers for security checks and balances and whatever, and they just won't do it. So basically what's going on is it's a stalemate right now, and that's why we don't have any driver support for Mojave yet.
Well, and that's yes, you know.
Yeah, Neo has another question here. Mojave on a 2011 MacBook Pro. Isn't that a supported system, or is that?
No, it's not supported.
It's not? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It will run with his patcher. It will work quite well. With the 2011s, though, you've got that GPU that likes to fry itself.
I would probably, if you're using it for a church, it's running MIDI keyboards in your church, I would probably not. I would just keep it at High Sierra. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, keep it as High Sierra. The driver updates are going to be around for a few more years. All the security stuff. If they are still using it by then and you're worried about security, then consider upgrading it.
Yeah.
Also, when it comes to MIDI support, in my opinion, and the people that I know that work with MIDI interfaces and all that, it has been steadily gone downhill since El Capitan. So if whatever you got now is working, stick to it. You know?
Yeah.
Yep. What's that old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Oh, and getting back on topic, the patchers, my feeling on it, you know, you know, when it comes to the patches and stuff, I think that's what we were talking about. I don't mind them, but I want to see what's in it and how it gets there so that I can analyze it myself.
Yeah, that was totally not the topic anymore.
But yeah, I figured I probably forgot what the topic was.
No.
I'm human and I ain't that bright. No.
Well, what I want to know is, when it comes to graphics, my knowledge is pretty much non-existent. I don't do anything graphic intensive. I run the stock graphics cards up until a year ago. You know, I'm fine. Why has NVIDIA been able to have their own web drivers and just be completely independent of Mac up until now? Why can't they just release a driver that I can install and screw Apple.
Okay,
changed a lot of security things in Mojave.
Yep.
And it's not only NVIDIA, it's also AMD, because for me to run, let's say, because I run, okay, this is like being a heretic here, but I run Windows 10 on Boot Camp on my Mac. But for me to get the most updated AMD drivers, I have to go outside and have them patched, for them to actually work on Windows 10. Because guess what? Apple doesn't supply updated drivers except for when they update Boot Camp, which is usually only once a year.
Well, I managed to get AMD's drivers to work fine with my systems. You should be able to just download it from their website. And
it doesn't work that way anymore.
Really?
Unfortunately. With the newer iMacs, it doesn't work that way. It's even worse with the iMac Pros now. They actually had to do separate patchers for the AMD drivers for the iMac Pros because they do things a lot differently on those computers even.
Yeah, Greg T and I were talking about that because I said the same thing, and I said, well, my 2013 that had the NVIDIA drivers, I said, no, I just always installed the NVIDIA ones. And then I said, you could even do that on some of the olders, but, Greg, you had mentioned that you had actually gone out and tried to search and get them to work, and they just were not working at all because AMD just, I guess something that Apple has done have modified how they are actually wired in the system to a degree.
Exactly.
Can't be stock anymore.
Well,
Which doesn't surprise me.
I had to force install the drivers, though.
Well, the problem is that if you try to force install, especially under Windows running in Boot Camp, because the reason why I say that, because the way that the Mac hardware is, and we just talked, Rocky just said it, is the way the hardware is wired together, the way the graphics card is put into the Mac, it doesn't work with the regular drivers that they put out there, because it's expecting a regular AMD card into a PCI slot, or PCIe slot.
Makes sense.
Then it being integrated into the actual logic board like it is on the iMacs.
I just find that interesting because, for instance, my girlfriend's Toshiba laptop has yeah, I know. It has integrated Intel graphics. It's HD 4000 graphics. Only the Toshiba drivers will work with it, but if you force install the drivers from Intel to the newer ones, it works fine.
And that works on some things, but it sounds like it doesn't work that way on the Macs. Because
you got to remember, PC architecture's pretty much standard, for most of. And Apple does their things, and this kind of gets back to our main topic: is Apple does things differently to kind of keep people from doing stuff that we like to do, like tinker around with stuff and modify stuff,
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that Apple used to be, to a degree, very in tune with their audience. If you go back on YouTube and you find the announcement of the blue and white G3, Steve is talking his ass off about the expansion capabilities of that thing. Mm-hmm. Over the flap, you got your PCI, you got your RAM, you got this, you got that, and the people, the customers, never asked to lose that. Apple decided that on its own.
Yep.
And I want to know where that shift came from. I don't know too much about the history of Apple stuff because, I only care about today and what's in front of me.
Well, basically, if you solder all the things onto the board, it's cheaper than separate components. That's probably why they're doing it.
Yeah, but they know that Apple customers don't mind paying the Apple tax.
Okay,
we want a Mac that lasts 20 years.
But exactly, they can make it cheaper but still sell it for the same price.
Well, I'll give you a prime example of this. If you go on Apple's website and you want to order a MacBook Pro and you want to customize it, okay, say, for instance, you want to put, because I did that. I did that with mine. I customized the SSD and the RAM, okay, because the base model comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I wanted 16. And it comes with the 128 SSD. I wanted 256. Okay, so in order for me to do that, you have to have Apple do it because guess what? Both of those things are soldered onto the logic board now, and you can't just go and buy it and then later on pop in, you know, a SODIMM into the laptop. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And so they charge, I think it's like an extra $200 just to put from 8
their
to
pricing
16.
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they got you, basically, if you want a higher spec computer, you're going to pay for it now.
Yeah.
Which I mean, they kind of backed up a little bit with the new Mac Mini coming out. But I saw a video on trying to replace the memory in that thing. They made it damn near impossible to get to it almost.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not user friendly. You have to get into it, then you have to pull the whole logic board out, which involves a whole lot of cables being pulled out. Then there's a cage over the memory that has to be unscrewed before you can actually even pop in new SODIMM.
Yeah. I think we have another question.
Let's see. I have a Blackmagic Thunderbolt capture. It was working last week with Mojave. I tried it with High Sierra. It shows up in System Profiler, and I have drivers installed, but it doesn't show up in QuickTime.
What does Blackmagic say for system requirements and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it probably was also meant to work in High Sierra. Maybe try an older driver if you have that.
Huh.
When was the last time the computer was rebooted would be my next question.
Good firmware, because, you know, Thunderbolt is pretty much almost a direct connection to the processor. And with all the recent firmware updates, could that interfere with Thunderbolt's devices and all that?
The only systems that are really getting updates, I think, firmware-wise with Mojave is the 5.1 Pro and like one other system, and I can't remember which one it is. So,
I thought all systems were getting firmware updates.
They probably are, but it's probably the newer ones, not the older hardware.
Well, even the newer, I mean, any of them, the basic firmware update that it does is it changes the boot screen and flips it to have a white apple with a black background. I know that's one of the changes in it, but...
That's innovation, my friend.
Well, and that's another issue, too, is that with the newer stuff, for instance, my MacBook Pro that I just bought, it's a 2018 MacBook Pro, and I have the 2017 MacBook Pro, and I have the 2017 iMac. Guess what the Apple decided to get rid of after 20 or 30-something years was the good old bong, you know, that you get when you boot up.
I hate
time,
So now when I want to swap, you know, let's say I want to swap partition or boot it off a different, you know, drive, I don't know when to actually hold the option key down. So basically I have to do it as soon as I reboot. I have to hold it down and wait.
Yeah.
It used to be as soon as you hear the bong, boom, hit the option key.
Yeah, I don't trust a Mac that doesn't chime or doesn't have a glowing Apple logo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's something Apple should bring back is bring back the chime, because that's...
It's a valid diagnostic tool even. You know, it's...
Well, mine...
You hear the chime, your system, your post's clear.
That's what mine has now.
Yeah.
It has it's a metal piece sitting right there.
Yeah. All in the name of making it thinner.
Yeah.
It's
but you can
funny
always
that
just
people
cut the
say
Apple
that.
logo out, and then it would glow again.
I used to do mods on the
They
white
probably
MacBooks. The white MacBooks, you know, pretty thick display. I used to take the Apple logo out and order a very small LCD USB display from AliExpress or something.
Oh, yeah.
I would put a display in the Apple logo. That's pretty sweet.
That's cool. Oh, the LED light doesn't light up on the capture device. I wonder if that's maybe a situation that it's not getting enough power or something. Because, like, I had that phantom display thing. My display was completely turned off, you know, back when I was trying to figure out a way to, whatever, circumvent. And there was still enough power coming through, I think it was the HDMI, that it actually powered the board and still recognized that I had a display connected, even though I didn't have it actually powered or anything. It was just plugged straight into the machine at that moment.
Well, could it be that he got a firmware update that probably changed the power going out on the USB port?
That's possible.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way would be, even if you can walk to an Apple store, just plug it into another Mac. See if it's the device or if it's the computer.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I would say too. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's still working in Mojave, it's just not working in High Sierra.
But that's a yeah. It's a.
But is it on the same
weird.
or is it different Macs? That's the other question.
Is it two different Macs, Neo, or is it the same Mac?
He tried it on a 2012 iMac too.
Then I'm leaning more towards that Thunderbolt thing or the capture device having an issue.
Yeah, it sounds like the capture device might be having a problem. If you can, contact Black Magic, see what they say.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of MacBook Pro, how are you guys feeling about the new graphics card options that they announced this month? The Vega 16 and the Vega 20.
I want some NVIDIA options.
I know you do. But I'm just curious from a thermal perspective how they're going to pull it off on a Mac that's already
Well,
set.
I'm not sure how they're pulling off that i9 in the
They're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
Throttle.
It's still overheating and throttling.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I haven't seen any benchmarks yet, but it's a lot of power to put on the same tiny copper heatsink.
Yep.
So I got a question for the viewers out there. How do you guys like? I mean, we're actually using group FaceTime. I don't know if anybody's actually used it like we have yet, but what do you think of the new group FaceTime?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And I think Greg T's the second person to have this live on their channel now. I don't think anybody else has done it since you did it first, Greg H.
Yep.
You did it, Greg?
Yeah, he did.
Remember, we were in it.
We were in it.
Mike, you're not saying a whole lot.
You guys are talking about stuff that's way over my head, but
He's the old school stuff, like that.
somebody wanted to ask me a question about a Mac SE30. Hey, I'd be right that.
How do you feel about the Mac SE30, bro?
There you go.
Well, if you can find a working one nowadays, it'd be great.
I have
So
to step
Alex
away
says,
for
"I
a
hate the
minute.
new
I'll still
iMacs."
be here in audio, though.
Okay.
So Alex says he hates the new Macs. My 15-inch 2017 maxed out has been in repair for almost 2 months.
Ooh. In repair where? With Apple?
Yeah, what repair shop? Is it been with
Yeah,
Apple?
if it's by Apple, they should at this point replace it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like if Apple's repairing it right now, they should be replacing it. You should really be hammering them.
Yeah.
If your Mac is currently being repaired by a shop in South Florida, let me know.
Well, if it's at the Apple store, dude, I would be saying, look, I need it back. You guys need to replace it. Oh, you've had 3 replacements.
Woo! Wow.
Oh, in that case, I'd be having Apple buying it back.
Yeah.
Or giving a 2018 and saying, sorry.
Actually, yeah, they might actually suck it up and do that if you complain enough.
Yeah, raise a stink on that one.
Now, I can tell you one good thing about the Apple stores that I've had good experiences with is this is a story I had one time before. I bought a new MacBook Air, which Jay doesn't like, so we won't say that. But I bought a new MacBook Air, and at the time they had it was maxed out at 4 gigabytes, and so I just bought it to replace the one I had before that only had 2 gigabytes of memory. But less than about 30 days after I bought it, that's when Apple changed their pricing structure and went to the same price I paid for the 4 gigabytes. It was now 8 gigabytes. So I called my Apple store in Tucson, Arizona, and I asked them, I said, hey, it's just over. I mean, it was like 32 days after I bought it. And they have a 30-day return policy where you can actually return it and get, swap it out.
Oh, yeah, they're usually good at doing that.
So the guy said, no problem, bring it in. Just as long as you have the box, everything that came with it, we'll swap it out and give you the newer one with 8 gigabytes free. And I went up there, Took me about 10 minutes. Boom, I was out.
Nice.
I mean, that's some of the good experiences I've had now. And I've had some bad experiences, too, with my iPhone 8S where the camera went out on it. They repaired it, supposedly. I came back home. The camera was not repaired. It was making everything green. It looked like, like a, what do you call it, the night vision goggles. So everything was green when I would take pictures or even video. So I had to go back again, but when I went back again, I said, look, you guys need to replace it, because I'd only had the phone for a month. I mean, it just came out. So they replaced it, and then I had no issues after that. But again, Alex, I would actually ask them to replace the thing, or like Greg just said, trade up to the newer MacBook 2018. I mean, you might have to pay a couple extra.
I wouldn't trade up. I would hammer them left and right and make them.
If you hammer it, they'll have to eventually crack.
Yeah. They usually are good at that because they're not, believe it or not, they're actually not losing money off of that thing. They're making money
they're not at all.
Just on these things. I mean, I've seen videos where people have put the cost of each component of, say, an iPhone. And it only costs Apple, I think, in components, I think it was like less than $100 in components, or a little bit over 100.
Yep.
And if you count the labor and everything it costs to put it together, I think it was like about $300 total. But yet they're selling them for what? $800. It's almost 120 or 130% markup.
Well, that's assuming labor in a country where labor actually gets paid.
That's true too.
Alex, if you have countless videos, you have enough. If anything, the last thing you could do is threaten to sue. I mean, you've got proof. And there is a lot of laws out there that protect consumers.
Yes.
That sounds like something that, you just have to bring that up to them. They'll replace it, or, you just say, you'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Yep. That's that lemon law, and I think it lasts for, you have to, if it's in the shop for a certain amount of time within the first, it's like, I think on cars it goes a year. On other things, I think it only lasts maybe 6 months to a year. But yeah, there's a lemon law.
If you are going to mention a lawyer, though, do not do it until the very end of the conversation. Because as soon as you say the lawyer,
they stop talking.
The conversation is instantly over.
Yep.
And if I was you, I would actually record your conversations with the Genius Bar when you actually do go to the Apple Store.
If anything, upload it to YouTube. It will blow up.
It will amuse us.
That's true.
$50 replacement for free. I think they replaced it.
That's cool, Neo.
Mm-hmm.
They do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, they will do some out of warranty stuff. A lot of it, depending on what it is. Like the battery thing. Okay, I think the iPhone 7 did have a battery problem. I know that the 8, in fact, the 8S or the 8 Pluses had a battery problem, and me and my wife brought ours to Apple Store, and they replaced the batteries in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was the no service thing. Yeah.
Even a certified Apple Store once told me just to buy Windows. Well, I'm willing to bet you if they told you that and it got out, they're probably no longer a certified Apple Store.
Well, not necessarily. It depends, because if they were, a certified shop, like when I was working in 06 to 08 for one, they were an Apple certified service provider, and we were actually a Windows shop that, they sold Windows, Linux machines, stuff like that to enterprise and business and whatnot. And then we got certified to sell and repair Mac products, and I was one of the 2 techs that were actually trained and whatnot. We had to go through the whole thing and get blah, blah, blah. but they're not necessarily, they don't have to worry about that if they are just a certified provider of service, because their main job is a warranty, to provide warranty. If you're coming in asking questions about a machine that's Apple or otherwise, that doesn't always fall under that scope, and you can get into that gray area where you can actually say something like that.
Yeah, the 8 Plus home button actually is not really a physical button anymore. It's actually it's a solid.
Did you forget the word again?
Huh?
Taptic.
It's
But
haptic.
no, that's not what he's talking about. It's all a solid piece of glass,
Yeah.
and it's got a sensor built into the glass right there.
Yep.
So if that failed, it's probably the sensor,
Yep.
which means you need a whole new front glass for it.
Yep.
Which you probably can't get except from Apple and their special whatever, and they'll just hand you a new phone and charge you a shit ton.
Otherwise, it will stop working the next iOS update.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to our topic again, is that, you can't get the parts but from an Apple retailer, and Apple won't put those
That
parts
reminds me, the chip on that sensor is also tied to the logic board.
Just like on the old ones.
So you can't just replace it. You have to have Apple repair it. Otherwise, the home button will stop working anyway.
Yeah, because the problem with it is that it's tied to the what do they call that chip in there now? It's the one that has the fingerprint sensor data on it. That's
the security chip.
T2.
No, it's not
not the T2.
It's not the T2. It's in the iPhone.
The Secure Enclave stuff?
That's it. Secure Enclave.
Yeah.
But isn't that in the T2 now?
It's on the
iPhones don't
MacBooks.
have T2, Jay.
Yeah, the iPhones have a separate Secure Enclave, and it's the MacBooks that actually have the T2 now.
The Turd 2 chip.
Yes, Neo, it is a solid state home button. It no longer actually moves.
Wait, you're gonna get hammered by that on all these trolls on YouTube now. Everybody's gonna get on you about calling it a solid state.
Hey, we said we are not quite experts.
If you look right here, it says live chat with some not so expert Apple geeks.
There you go.
We
covered our ass.
Experts.
Alex, $150 for a 15-inch 2010 is actually a really, really good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is a really good deal. I sold a 2011 iMac for around $400.
Yep.
Same here.
Yeah.
21-inch even.
Yeah, it's a 21-inch. That was mine.
Yeah, I got.
So, a quick question for you guys: What do you think of FaceTime, group FaceTime so far, and what do you see from it going forward?
I actually like it. I think the quality is really good on all of us here. I mean,
the problem
it still has its little quirks.
Yeah. The problem is older systems have problems showing it properly, and it just. I'm right now looking at another exclamation point. It's not foolproof, and older hardware it doesn't seem to like a whole lot. Even the stuff that's supported, it doesn't work right.
Right.
But the newer stuff, it works great on.
Hey, Mike, there's a question for you there.
Yeah.
Alex asks, he heard you talking about SE30. He's thinking about getting one out of his shed and cleaning it up. My dad has about 300 to 400 Macintoshes like that. It's funny because I'm not 300 to 400.
Where do you live?
Yeah.
Is your house built out of SEs?
Well, if it's
Mike's
built
like
out of SEs, it'll never fall down.
Woo.
Mike's like, this is Mac porn.
Wow, if you have that many old Macs, I definitely want to meet you. Are you in Pennsylvania anywhere, by chance?
That's a lot of recapping that needs to be done.
Yeah, but
No kidding.
Ooh, that's a bad thing with a lot of them older machines. They're getting so old and long in the tooth that they're definitely needing some surface mount work at this
My
point.
Macintosh Plus worked great this time last year. I plugged it in for my most recent video. I just wanted the screen to turn on so it would glow, and I flipped the switch, it bonged and then nothing happened.
Oh man, he's in Australia, Mike. You got to take a long trip.
Yep. Pack your bags, buddy.
Yeah. He looks like he's thinking.
Yeah, right? He's thinking about it. He's like, how much time do I have off? Let me see.
Hey, if you dig out a Quadra 700, let me know. I'll pay for the shipping.
Oh, wow.
He has about 8 2CIs.
Those were
All
great
right.
machines. Those things were awesome.
Superman asks, does boot camp work with the Mojave patch?
Yes.
Does it? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if it does because I don't use the Mojave patch.
It will work. You might have some issues, especially since you have to use APFS with the Mojave patch. So you won't be able to see the drives anymore in boot camp. And you'll also need a custom boot camp like boot camp 6.1 just to be able to use the boot menu. But it will work.
Yeah, in fact, I could tell you right now because I use Mojave and the real Mojave without patcher and boot camp. And when I'm in
the real Mojave.
when I'm in Windows 10, I cannot see any of my Mac drives. But I can vice versa if I'm in OS X or Mac OS. I can actually see the boot camp drive. So I can actually pull data off my boot camp drive anytime I need it.
So Windows can... Okay, because Boot Camp has drivers for APFS, so it can read out the data.
What? No. Boot camp can't see... Our Windows 10 cannot see the APFS drives.
Huh.
It can't even really see the journal drives because it just doesn't have drivers for it.
Well,
which is weird.
It does if you have the the first Boot Camp 6 drivers or any of the earlier ones. It has HFS Plus drivers, but you have to force Windows to see it. I made a video on that.
Exactly, but they don't have the older ones anymore.
It's a pain now.
Yes, it is.
But Apple said that they were not going to update any drivers, including HFS Plus or APFS for Windows ever again. So if you want to see them, you need a third-party program.
Yep. And I don't actually do anything except I do iRacing on Windows 10. I don't do anything else really on Windows 10 except that one particular game. Other than that, I game on a G5.
You should show off one of your car pictures from today in the stream.
If I could pull it in.
Hey, Greg, let me ask you a question.
Which Greg?
Either one. So what should I run on this thing?
What is it?
My MacBook.
That's his
Steamroller.
That's his late 2008 unibody MacBook.
Now I have El Capitan on it. It runs. It's a little low side, or at least when it boots. But after it's running, it runs awesome. Though
it will run newer operating systems beautifully. I would run High Sierra on it, but
what?
Yeah, High Sierra, it would run great. It's even got the same trackpad in it as the MacBook Pros do, so it should all work fine.
But what graphics chip is in that thing?
The 9400.
Oh yeah, it would be similar to running a.
Yeah, like the white unibodies, the late 2009s had the same GPU in it, so it will run High Sierra perfectly.
There, I'll leave that up for a couple of seconds.
Is it going to be powerful enough? I mean, to run decently?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It should run it great.
Nice.
How much RAM do you have?
It's maxed at 4 gigs.
It's maxed at 4 gigs. You can go up to 8.
Really?
I think it's 8.
Able to
4.
Oh well.
Those systems have DDR3, I think, don't they?
Yeah, it's DDR3.
Yeah, you can run 8 on it.
Oh,
it should run 8.
I didn't know that. I thought they told me it was maxed at 4.
Yeah.
Well, Well, here, I'll check Macintosh Garden.
Well, who is they?
Exactly. If it Apple,
I want to think it was low end. No, it wasn't low end Mac. It was yeah, I can't remember. It was one of the reputable places.
I'm looking on Macintosh.
Oh, that must have been the House of Moss. Then.
Oh no, you're right, Greg. I'm lying because I actually have 5 in it, not 4.
Well, some of them, even if they don't support the 8 fully, the older ones.
I think that's what now you said. You're right. I think it was.
yeah, every Mac.com says 8 gigs of RAM.
Yep.
Yeah, because I lied to you. I actually have 5 in here now.
Yeah.
I think 5.
A 1 gig.
Very
4
carefully.
Gig.
Oh, okay.
Very carefully.
Very carefully. No, I think I had stripped down a PC laptop a while ago, and it had a 4 gig stick of DDR3 in it, and I just shoved it in here because this was a base model MacBook when I got it. So it had no upgrades or anything. It's still running the original 100.
That's one of the Macs I still really, really want, Mike.
What's that?
It's one of the Macs I still really, really want.
Oh yeah.
I want one of those, and I want a 2008 Pro 17-inch. That'd be cool.
I had a 15-inch 2008 unibody.
Keyword.
I use this a lot. I actually use this more than I use my iPad now. I mean.
Oh yeah, it's just as capable as that's not it. As this one. It's got all the same hardware in it, except you have DDR3, and, well, that's better.
Yep.
Early 2009 MacBook.
I had one of those.
My 2008 has DDR3 and then has DDR2?
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
what kind of logic is that?
Yours is better. It's got, that multi-touch trackpad on it like the MacBook Pros. This has the old-fashioned one that doesn't work in the newer OSs properly.
Oh.
So yours is even better off than mine is.
Oh, wow.
The only good thing about the MacBook is the keyboard.
Well, the older MacBooks.
15 when they swapped it to Butterfly or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say the older MacBooks.
Oh yeah, definitely the older ones.
I'm going to say this has the same keyboard in it that the original MacBooks had, I'm pretty sure. And those were always known to be...
That's the chiclet ones, like what's in the unibodies now.
The only thing I have to do is I have to fix the trackpad. Somebody spilled something in it.
Well, good thing that's above the battery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this thing is actually, it's pretty easy to take apart. I mean, they actually tell you online how to take it apart.
Unibodies were really easy to take apart.
It probably tripped every moisture sensor inside that thing.
I don't think
I'm sure. It's not like it's under warranty. I mean, it's 10 years old.
I know. I'm just joking.
Take it to an Apple store. They will think it's a MacBook Pro, and it's going to take them 20 minutes to figure out it's a MacBook. They're going to say no, but just to blow some minds, bring it in.
I should do that just to piss them off.
Yeah.
Record it like wear your phone on your pocket or something so you can record it.
Like if I lived next to an Apple store, I would bring in the extra RAID. Like, guys, it's not booting. What is this?
The hell? I'd take in a freaking...
I don't want to see that, Jay. You should do something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to haul 80 pounds of box over there.
Hey, can you help me with my Mac for a second here?
Yeah.
Just roll it in on a Red Rider.
I'm sorry, we don't currently make Macs with PCI slots, so we can't even put a fiber card in if we wanted to. Bad.
So, guys, any other questions here? We've been on for about an hour and a half now. Might want to wind this down here real quick. But I know we got 12 viewers out there. I think 4 of them are us. So,
Oh my God, Austin!
What?
Trust me, we're not going to get demonetized.
Yeah.
I'm not even monetized yet, so I can't get.
I haven't cursed once. Not once.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
I'm so proud of myself.
I'm going to say, we are proud of you. You should get a gold star for that.
right?
What?
Where's the
You got
count?
demonetized, Jay?
What?
You got demonetized?
No, I haven't cursed once in tonight's stream.
I'm actually shocked.
I know.
Too.
That's all going to change, of course, if we're having a Game of Overworld tournament after this.
There you go.
I'm going to make a pizza first, but yeah. Greg.
Yeah. But at least the FaceTime held out, the stream held out, the software you're now using held out. I think this went
I've
pretty
had,
well.
for an hour and a half now, I've had 13 drop frames.
What?
That's
Wow.
13.
Not bad.
That's definitely impressive.
And
Yeah.
I'm streaming in 1080p, 30 frames a second. So it's doing really good, actually.
Yeah.
We've been
Well,
going
if we're,
for 105 minutes.
Well, let's see. My graphics card is sitting at about 62 degrees. Not bad.
Not
No,
bad.
it isn't.
I mean, the CPUs are about 62 also, so they're about the same.
Same heatsink.
That's pretty much true.
Well, if we're wrapping this up, then I'm curious what each one of you has in the pipeline for any projects or blogs or videos.
Well, let's ask the guys watching here. Was this entertainment to you guys, and would you like us to do this weekly, maybe, or even bi-weekly if we want to? I mean, this is something we're doing for you guys out there. It's not just for us. I mean, we sit here and talk on FaceTime.
We do it anyway.
Pretty much.
Quick question. Neo, why my 5.2 MacBook won't recognize anymore? The battery would be... cool.
That's probably it right there. It's a Chinese battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
chip is probably fried.
Yeah, there's a possibility your chip's fried. But is it still running with just on the battery or what? Just not reading like the percentage?
Could also be that the connector's not put down all the way.
Maybe.
Let's see.
I'm trying to think. What's a 5,2? What generation is that?
That's
Well, mine's the 5,
look I just showed you.
Oh, okay. The 11, the
It
A11.
only runs on the charger. Yeah, it's a possibility your power management chip's fried.
Yeah, that's what I would guess. Because they're built into the batteries, right?
Huh?
The PMU chips are built in, aren't they?
I don't know. I haven't cracked one of those open.
I haven't. I did one back in probably the first generation, and I know that was one of the first ones they were putting the PMU chips inside the batteries. You know, I mean, they tried it back on the PowerBook 500 series way back in the day, but those were still running iCAD batteries.
Yeah.
So, but that's probably more than likely what the problem is, because, you know, the quality of those things, you know, they're built to be as cheap as possible. So,
Yeah, I could tell you for a MacBook Pro, it would be a pretty straightforward board repair. But I've never actually had anyone spend money to have a MacBook Logic board repaired, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It'd be a pretty easy repair because there's not much to that board. That board's pretty wide open.
Yeah, it's just literally just a hunk of PCB, really.
It reminds me of the old G3 and G5, or excuse me, G4 laptops, the bigger ones, the old iBooks and stuff. Because it's a pretty simple board.
well, the MacBook is just an extension of the original iBook. I mean, because
Literally.
back when the MacBook first came out, I mean, they were just basically they did make a G4 MacBook, if I remember correctly, or was it G5?
PowerBook. I don't think it was. I don't think they called it.
I'm of course I could be wrong. Maybe it was when they changed to the Intel processors when they changed to the MacBook moniker.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I mean because my stepdaughter had one of the very first ones that came out, and I'll tell you what, it was actually a pretty nice machine. The plastics didn't hold up for crap, but you know the itself was good.
Nothing a little duct tape can't fix. You know.
Yeah, we got another question here, guys. Athlon, he's having a problem with his G5 that has a CPU problem. He says it turns on, but he gets no chime or video. He swapped the video cards, hard drive, RAM. I know it's not a PSU issue either, so it's probably a CPU issue.
What CPU's he got in that?
Okay, Noah. When you hit the power button, do you see the light flash on for a second and kick off? Because if you do, yeah, it's probably CPU. Just reseat it and it might kick off.
Well, that's a different guy. Alex is different.
Yeah, it's Athlon that was asking.
Yeah, Athlon.
Athlon's Noah.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy that does all that music I put in my videos now.
Ah, okay.
Oh, cool.
Hi, Noah.
Mr. 2001.
Yeah, it was a good song.
And don't forget to like, guys, before
like it and
subscribe
if you're not a subscriber.
Yeah, if you don't like it, next time we're just gonna sit here in bathing suits and talk about PC. So.
But you guys will be sitting there cringing as I'm talking about PCs. Hey, Alex Meadows' question.
Alex, I actually own a graphite one.
Now,
that's
Ruby.
the only one I own, but I would love to get a blueberry one.
I own 2 blueberries, 2 indigos, and a grape.
And a graphite.
Technically a graphite that Jay has right now.
Yeah, come and get it.
And technically another indigo that Mike has.
Hey, that's in pieces right now.
What you do to it?
Oh, I was dismantling it. I needed a part for my snow.
See, that's karma, Greg. For blowing up the parts that he sent to me in your video.
Yeah, but the part that Greg needs, I'm going to keep that. Plus, he wants the case plastics, too.
Yeah, but I've got some case plastics now. Because someone dropped off... Scott Flanagan dropped off an indigo. We'll probably be transplanting a lot of those parts over to it. Because this indigo's got bad optical drive, and I want to say a bad hard drive in it. So his parts.
I have drives if you want drives.
Oh, I have drives too.
And I'm in the process, speaking
I got a few drives.
If it's a slot load and not a tray load, I'm in the process of waiting on some new drive motors for those, and I've got a supplier for the belts to be able to rebuild both the slot loading iMacs and the slot loading G4 cubes.
Well, don't they use the same drive, don't they?
Yes, they do. The DV iMacs are the exact same drive because I've got sitting around here somewhere. I've got the drive from another member of LEM. He sent me his cube drive, and it actually happens to be exactly identical to the DV drive I pulled from an iMac that I used to have.
Okay, Neo, changing your 3,1 PSU, should you do it? It depends if you can find one really, really cheap, because otherwise it's... A lot of those are expensive. The power supplies, it may not be worth it.
Oh, wow, that is... Yeah, that's the drive.
What about putting an ATX in a 3,1? Is that doable?
I don't know.
I feel like trying it.
Don't we have the pinout for it?
Didn't you make the pinout for it?
Yeah, so why isn't it possible?
Okay, well, if anything, you can always wire an ATX into it.
Is
that like putting a round peg in a square hole?
If you push hard enough, man.
It should fit. It's just this where you have to drill a hole in the back of it to plug it in.
Or just use a little extender cable and call it a day. Because that power supply, I think, is longer, isn't it? On the 3,1, I'd have to pop my side open to look.
Well, he bought it for $50 a year ago. If you can get a power supply for $50, you might be all right. Otherwise, I'd say it's probably not worth it at this point.
Isn't it commonly like a chip issue inside the power supply on those and not a cap issue?
I'm not sure. I just know that a lot of 3-column-1s, the power supplies just go, and they're gone.
Well, you've had a lot of issues
Common
with
thing.
G4 power supplies lately, haven't you?
The what?
You've had a lot of issues with G4 power supplies lately.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of issues with their CPUs.
I got
I just had a few light
behind me.
bulbs shoot through the boards and stuff.
What?
Yeah, if you look at that Quicksilver in the center, that one's mine.
No, it's not yours anymore.
Oh, yeah, I gave that to you, didn't I?
Although
But that's got a popped PSU in it.
Yeah, and I got a whole stack of CPU cards that need downclocking.
He's even got one of my CPU cards that he fixed after I fried it.
Jay, talk about your overclocking experiences.
No. It's painful, man.
He fried a really expensive and rare Sonnet CPU.
Ooh, bad Jay.
Well,
Let's see. Hold on. This right here is a Sonnet 1.8 that I overclocked to 2.0 and is now dead. This was a 1.25 that I tried to get to run 1.5. It didn't like it. Over here, we have a dual 1.25. Suffered the same fate. And I got a few more on the shelf there, and they're all overclocked and not working. But now I have a liquid cooler, so I might be able to be back on track.
thanks to Rocky.
Yep.
We'll see how that works.
So that's one of my upcoming projects, is getting the MDD, which I don't know if it's in frame, it's over there. Getting that up and running at 1.75 gigahertz, liquid cooled. And I have an Xserve G4 that needs to be overclocked as well. Should be fun.
Why do you need to overclock an Xserve G4?
Because he can.
Why not?
Okay, good point. Good answer. It's not like you really need the power for a server.
Right? No, and hopefully, I don't know if most of the people watching this are on low-end Mac, but you might have seen that Dan, both Dans, Dan Knight and Dan Basher, just picked up a monster haul of G4s, G5s, and all that stuff. And I'm actually buying a few old Xserves out of that pile from Dan Basher, which hopefully will give me even more processor cards to overclock.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk to him about buying some stuff too.
Yeah, Xserves. I got dibs on Xserves.
Now, Jay, have you ever messed with the G5s at all?
No, I want to. I really want to. I got 9 of them, but I don't know what to do with them. I would love to overclock a G5, but Rutke has told me that it's near impossible and very hard to do. So I haven't been able to find any good info on it online either. But I would love to do it.
You have to overclock the bus, from what I've been figuring out.
I'll be right back.
I've read some outrageous stories of people running those things at 7 gigahertz and all that, but I don't know if I'm going to believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe those.
Yeah. Not without, dipping it in liquid nitrogen, you know.
I'm going to say a stock G5, I mean, those things run ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
I can't see how anybody could overclock them and not water cool them.
Right.
I mean, how that themselves.
I have a stock dual processor G5 that a lot of people say, oh, they run hot, and that sounds like a jet engine. Well, mine is sitting on back here, right there, and
they're real
you can
quiet.
barely even hear it. I mean, because I ran an Apple service disk on it and calibrate the fans, and boom, it works fine, and it never ever ramps up hardly ever.
My mid 2003 G5 likes to scream sometimes. But really, the only PowerPC Macs that I know of that are loud is the wind tunnels, the MDDs. They can get pretty darn loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
they're all quiet.
it's loud. My Pro gets louder than my G5 does.
Yeah.
My Pro has actually maxed its fans out on several occasions, and I don't even do that much heavy lifting on it. I do most of that on the G5. The G5 just says...
Oh, you're certainly not playing UT on it.
I was the other day. I was on my Pro, and actually, it just running that. And truthfully, it ran worse on my Pro than it did on my G5.
And I'm back.
I don't know why.
Speaking of UT, we actually have someone new that's been putting us up to a challenge, saying that he was going to, let's see, mop the floor with Rocky.
Yeah. Mop the floor with him.
He actually posted...
Mop the floor with me next time we play.
Well, he posted a picture where he's going to record the butt whooping that he was going to give Rocky.
Okay.
Yep. So Greg and I were actually testing FaceTime for the stream tonight, and we immediately stopped what we were doing, jumped on the game to whoop his butt, and he wasn't there.
Yeah. So, guys, it's almost 2 hours that we're going to be hitting here in about 10 minutes. So, any other questions? And I asked a question earlier. No one's really gave me a good answer if they want to continue seeing these type of videos, because we're going to rotate these around between channels. So, I think next time it's going to be Greg H. is going to be actually doing it. So,
this should be interesting.
Yeah, it should be interesting. But we're going to rotate this around.
I think it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
And we hope we have you in it a lot, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah.
You almost didn't make it into it.
Sorry. Well, nobody said anything to me. Sorry, I've been kind of a hermit lately. I just, I've been working on remodeling my house, and
we're going to drag you out, bud.
My whole...
We see where your priorities are.
Okay, we're getting a lot of thumbs ups and saying yes, they would watch them. So I think
awesome.
We should probably keep this up.
Smash that like button.
Well, we got 6 likes, but we got 11 views. Well, some of them are us watching. So you guys haven't hit the like button, and it's your fault.
It looks like we're going to be doing it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think it's awesome. I mean, again, especially with feedback from people that are watching, And if we're covering a topic that nobody likes, we'll hear about it, and we can switch gears and just talk about something else.
Matter of fact, what we'll do is we'll put a poll up on Low End Mac and ask we'll put a couple of topics out there and say whatever one wins, that's what we'll try to cover. We might hear
the core conversation for the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll try to stick to topic. Although I didn't think we did too bad tonight.
No,
we went off topic pretty far, but it always circled back to the original topic. So.
And speaking of which, Austin, we actually all the links to all the channels are in the description below. So all you got to do is go to each one of the links there.
Yeah, I mean, you need to put Michael in it.
Yeah, I need to put Michael's in there, so I'll add his later on. So just come back and look at it, but I'll add Mike's link to his YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, this week I think I'm doing the LC. I'm going to try to get the LC booted.
And blowing up some more airbags, I'm sure.
It's too old for that crap. My problem is my shop has no heat, so it's getting a little chilly out.
Oh, you wanna know how to properly heat up an office? Get one of those and initialize a raid. That's going to take 8.5 days.
Dude, it's only 50 degrees outside for where I'm at, and we're still wearing shorts during the daytime and stuff. So
it's like 21 degrees out right now here. So
we're in Arizona, so.
Well, I'm in South.
It is currently 27 degrees here.
Fun.
That's too damn cold.
Yeah, this is normal weather for us. I mean,
I'm at 32.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is. I'm not even looking right now.
I had to convert it because I don't speak whatever system.
All right, guys. If we don't have any other questions here, we're going to go ahead and stop the video here. But if you guys want to hang on to FaceTime, we can do it for a little bit longer. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. But we'd like you guys to follow us, subscribe, and come back and watch us next week. We're going to try to.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
I mean,
and like I said, I posted in there. If you have FaceTime capability, group FaceTime capability, that is, let us know. We'll try to bring you in. We want to max this thing out to 32 to see what if we could get 32 people on here at once and see what it does.
And we're going to stream it.
And we're going to stream it, so you'll be in our YouTube stream.
Yep.
So, guys, with that said, see you guys later, and we'll have a good one.
Hey, guys.
See you guys. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe and like.